Well, hey there, Southern Oregon. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show. So glad you could join us today. I'm Alice Lema. I'm a broker here in beautiful Southern Oregon with John L. Scott Real Estate, your host for the show. Today, we're going to be interviewing Tina Grimes, the CEO of Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, also known as arvar. If you ever hear somebody say arvar, they're talking about Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. And we're very lucky to have such an amazing organization here locally. They do a lot of community outreach. They do a ton of education. They also help with the legislature for housing in general, as well as just real estate stuff. So Tina Grimes, the CEO of Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, is going to be on the show today. And we're going to try to get a picture of what happened in 2022 and also look forward to 2023 and just hear what they have planned. Before we bring in Tina to talk, let's do a quick check on the stats. Now, the Southern Oregon MLS and the Rogue Valley Association Realtors have a fabulous website. They have so many charts. They have so much data, and you know how we like our data. We want to talk a little bit about some of the third quarter. This would be September to the end of November, third quarter numbers for Jackson and Josephine County. Just wanted to point out our 1 year percent change in the quarter for Jackson County, we're up 2.5%. But I want to take a quick second and say our 5-year percentage change in Jackson County, we're up 46% for 5 years. We're up 2.5% for the 1 year for third quarter. Let's look at Josephine County. We are up in Josephine County 0.5%, and that's for the year. But if you look at the 5-year change in Josephine County, we're up 54%. So what we've been talking about over the last few weeks, we see the market settling. We still have some small appreciation, but things are definitely calmer, and that's what the Federal Reserve Bank wanted to accomplish. So there you go. Let's get ready to bring Tina Grimes of Rogue Valley Association of Realtors in. We've got to take a quick break and say thank you to our sponsors, John L. Scott, Ashland and Medford, Guy Giles, Mutual of Omaha Mortgage, and the local Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. We appreciate your sponsorship every week so that we can do this show and just inform and educate our local listeners. We'll be right back after a quick word. Don't go away. Well, good morning, Southern Oregon, and welcome back to the Real Estate Show. I'm so happy to have Tina Grimes as my guest today. Tina is the CEO of our local Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. Thank you so much for being on the show again, Tina.
Happy to be here as always.
Yeah, now, here we are winding up 2022, and I think the public doesn't always understand how important the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors is and what function you perform on behalf of the agents and the public. Can you tell people a little bit about what the agency does?
So we're not a real estate firm. A lot of people think we are. We're not. We're a trade association, and realtors. So the National Association of Realtors is the ones that started the word realtor, and they own that as a federal trademark. A lot of people think that is the word for the profession, because the branding has been done a little too well. I liken it to someone saying, hand me a Kleenex or hand me a Coke. That's not actually what they are. Those are the brand names. It's a tissue and a soda. So realtor means someone who is a member of a realtor association. And technically, the realtor category is real estate brokers and appraisers. So, So a real estate licensee, a real estate broker, that is the profession. If they're a realtor, it means they are a member then of the Realtor Association, and they have voluntarily said, I'm gonna subscribe to a higher level of ethics. I'm gonna do more than just what state law requires. Now, I will say our state law is better than a lot of other states that have some pretty loose laws, but it's still, the code of ethics is still a step up from state law. So, so one of the things that we do as the association, so when you hear someone say they're a realtor, hopefully they are using it correctly, and it means that they are a member of the Realtor Association, and that they are following the code of ethics. They're stepping up to that higher level. And as far as the association and what we do, so for our members, for the real estate brokers, for the appraisers, and then for the affiliate members, which is everybody else in the real estate industry who is not a real estate broker or an appraiser. So it's the title companies, the lenders, et cetera. We provide continuing education classes. We provide enforcement of the code of ethics. So if you have as much as I'd like to think every single person does every single transaction perfectly, that's not the world we live in, because we're all human. So if you've had an issue with a realtor, if you have a complaint, we're the ones you call. And we can walk you through the process of hopefully getting some resolution for that. We provide Ombudsman Services, which is informal mediation. And so it doesn't have to be that you want to file a formal complaint. You could just call if you have a question, and we can connect you with an ombudsman and maybe get resolution that way. So that's a service we provide to the public on behalf of our members. We also provide networking resources. We do a lot of legislative advocacy, which is not just for our members. Most trade associations, when they do political advocacy work, it is just for their members and their members' businesses. But because our members' business is about homeownership and private property rights, we are one of the few associations that when we are lobbying and doing political advocacy work, we're doing it on behalf of homeowners and commercial property owners and anybody who owns real estate, period. So we're doing that for both our members and the public. And then we're hugely involved in the community. First, our members, just on a personal level, I would say, I don't think I'm exaggerating to say there's not a single charity in either Jackson or Josephine counties that doesn't have a realtor connected to it some way, somehow. That's just what realtors do. But as an association, as a group, we also do a lot. Unfortunately, COVID, caused some of that to get stalled, but we are getting ready to ramp things back up again. We've had 2 fundraisers this year and raised, close to $10,000 for Habitat for Humanity at our Summer Smash event.
Oh, wow.
And just had our chili cook-off in Josephine County, brought that back to life after 3 years, and raised just shy of $8,000 for the family house.
Wow.
So, yeah. So we're getting our fundraisers going back again. We're going to do a whole lot more in 2023, a whole lot more. We try to focus on housing related efforts as an association. Obviously, our individual realtor members, like I said, they're involved in every charity, but as an association, we try to keep it connected to housing related efforts. And the one thing I'm super excited about is we are in the final stages of forming actually an arm of the association that will truly be a charitable foundation that will provide grants to other nonprofit entities here in the Valley that are housing related, like Habitat for Humanity, Access's housing program, those kinds of entities. It will also focus on providing education about housing and what it means to be a homeowner. And it will also work on affordable housing efforts in the communities. So, and increasing our quantity of affordable housing. So I'm very excited about that. We hope to get that launched right after the first of the year. So,
wow, that is so much going on. Are those efforts nationwide to have these foundation or charitable arm associations kind of connected to the realtors, or is this local?
It's a little of both. The National Association of Realtors has what they call the Realtors Relief Foundation, which they step in the event of a natural disaster and help people with grants, provide for mortgage payments and things that, may not be possible when you've just lost your house and your job, but you still have to pay that mortgage, unfortunately. So they step in and provide efforts and provide relief there. In fact, when we had the Alameda fire in 2020 and the Obenchain fire, both at the same time, which was devastating. We got from the Realtors Relief Foundation, and you may remember there was fires all over the state at that exact same time, and there was like 5 different towns that had major housing loss. The Oregon Realtors, the state level association, they applied for a grant from the Realtors Relief Foundation and got $120,000 that was given out around the state, but most of it came to our area. We ended up giving out over 90 grants to different people that were impacted by housing loss, some of our own members even. In fact, your ex radio show partner, Pete Belcastro, received one of those grants.
Yeah.
House in the Almeda fire. So huge impact. And then our state association has what they call the Oregon Home Foundation, which we have supported for years. And the reason we wanted to start our own, we're going to continue to support the Home Foundation, but we wanted to start our own just so that when we have these events, people making donations at the events can actually have it be a tax write-off, and hopefully will be a little more generous than in what they give. So there's
that's awesome.
Madness. So
that's awesome. Well, the Association of Realtors and our local Rogue Valley Association of Realtors does so much in so many different categories. And it's kind of hard to know where to start, but let's just take a minute, because it's the end of the year, and talk briefly about what was accomplished in 2022 by the board. Do we have any changes? I know we had some fair housing conversations going on. The love letters got challenged.
Yeah, and that had a stay of execution, so that's not in place. Man, there was,
so can I on that love letter, before we leave that, did that get where does that stand now? Because people are still kind of confused about it. But and if you don't know what we're talking about, folks, Tina, why don't you tell people what we call them? Love letters, but it was actually, so a bill passed in the 2021 legislative session that was supposed to go into effect January of 2022, but a lawsuit was brought against it, and a judge issued basically a halt order on executing the bill until things could be worked out. And I genuinely don't know where that's at the moment. I'd have to check on that. Well, those lawsuits take forever, but it was very interesting, though, that people were getting in trouble for writing a personal note to their seller with their offer.
And what as I say, the impetus of what brought the whole bill about is that it had become a fair housing issue, because they were finding that a lot of times those letters included pictures of the family or person who was trying to buy the home. It would include personal details about them or their, it wasn't just, hey, I love your property and here's why I love your property. It was more like, hey, I want to buy your house and here's details about me and why you should choose me. And going in, in the last couple of years with all the multiple offer situation we had, it was putting sellers at a lot of risk for fair housing violations, because they may be choosing somebody based on how they look or the lifestyle they led or those kinds of things, instead of just, are they offering me what I'm asking and are the terms something I can accept? It was becoming a subjective decision instead of objective. And this was on a national level. And a couple of the legislators here in Oregon said, well, let's make it so that people can't submit those love letters. And then that eliminates the fair housing risk. And the bill passed, but then others felt that it was a step too far, and that's where the lawsuit generated. So like I said, I genuinely don't know where that's at, other than just, I think it's all still in process. The lawsuit itself is still in process. And so a decision won't be made on the bill till the lawsuit ends. And like you said, those take years. So.
Yeah. So in the meantime, don't send a personal note with your offer.
Or if you do, make sure it's about the property and not about you personally.
And only the property, because at the end of the day, even though it's an emotional decision, it's a business decision.
Exactly.
They're trying to get the emotion out so that it's fair.
And the multiple offer frenzy has died down. So maybe it's a non-issue at this point, but that doesn't mean it couldn't come back.
Right. Well, markets ebb and flow, right? How
I
long
do.
have you been in real estate, Tina?
So I've been here with the association. It was actually 22 years this last Sunday.
Oh,
Thank you.
congratulations. Wow.
But before coming here, I worked at one of the local real estate offices for close to 2 years. So it's about 24 years overall.
Uh-huh. And how did you get the calling to become so involved in real estate?
I don't know that it was so much a calling as a, hey, this is just a series of events that happened and let's go along for the ride.
Uh-huh. Well, you're good at it.
And then when I got there, I realized I absolutely loved it and it became a calling, but it didn't start out that way.
Yeah. Well, you're really you make a huge contribution. We've got 2 more segments. We do have to take a quick break. We're talking to Tina Grimes, the CEO of our local Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. We also call it arvar. When you hear us say arvar, people go, what are you talking about? We're talking about the organization that Tina Grimes heads up. We're going to take a quick break. We're brought to you by Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. Thank you. We appreciate your sponsorship. Guy Giles, Mutual of Omaha Mortgage, and also John L. Scott, Southern Oregon, Ashland, and Medford. Also, just a reminder, we're going to be repeating this episode tomorrow, Sunday at 6:00. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with Tina Grimes. Well, hey, Southern Oregon, welcome back to the Real Estate Show. I'm Alice Lema, a broker here in beautiful Southern Oregon with John L. Scott Real Estate. And we're chatting today with one of my favorite people, Tina Grimes from arvar. Hi, Tina.
Hello.
Before the break, we were talking about all the different kinds of positive impact that the Rogue Valley Association Realtor has on the Valley. And also we were talking a little bit about your histories. I've never really known that story.
Yeah. So I mentioned I worked at a real estate firm for a couple of years before I came to work here. And that was actually at Windermere Investors Marketplace, which was owned by Bob Methvin and later became part of Windermere Van Vliet.
Yeah, Bob and Judy.
Yep. And when Valerie Albert was the managing broker there, I was her assistant and worked there. Like I said, it was just shy of 2 years. And then she decided she wanted to quit managing and go back to just selling. So she left there and went to Van Horn when Mary Van Horn still owned the firm. And I got an opportunity to take a different job at a totally different unrelated company. So I went there. And after about 1.5 years, Valerie called me up and said, hey, the MLS office is looking for a bookkeeper. You need to get your butt down there and apply. And I actually had not been enjoying the new job that I had like I thought I would. So I sent in my resume and they had just brought on a brand new CEO, Gary Stein. And I came in and interviewed with him and it was kind of funny because the 2 presidents because we have the Southern Oregon Multiple Listing Service too, and it's separately incorporated. So I have 2 boards of directors. Val at the time was the president of the association board and Gloria Young was the president of the MLS board. And I came into the interview and I sat down and Gary looks across the desk at me and he goes, just because Val and Gloria recommended you doesn't mean anything. Why should I hire you? And all I could think was, oh crap, what did they get me into? Because Bernie and Gloria have been friends of my family for years. So they
wow.
So, but Gary and I ended up clicking and he hired me. And so I started out as the bookkeeper. I did that for about 1.5 years and then he made me his assistant. And I did that for him until he retired. He mentored me. And then when he retired, I didn't feel like I was quite ready to step up to this role. So they did a search and brought in a new person. And he was here for about 2 years. And then he ended up having to resign for family reasons. And so at the time he left, I had thought, maybe I can do this. And threw my hat in the ring and took a few months for things to work out and shake out. But in February of 2011, I ended up becoming what I am now. And I've not looked back.
Yeah. And you've done some really wonderful things. The education department, for example, we didn't get to talk about that much. Very, very robust. You've really increased that department by quite a bit. Can you talk a little bit about when you first signed on versus now and the vision that you had to bring a more robust education platform?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, when I first started, we offered one class a month, typically 2 to 3 hours, and we would only do it 11 months out of the year. We wouldn't try and do a class in December because of the holidays. So we were offering anywhere between 30 and 33 hours a month of education. Now we offer 100 to 150 hours per year of education.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the reason I felt like that was so important is because there are 3 main reasons why you guys pay your annual dues. One of those is the code of ethics, and that, having that as the backbone of what you do. The other one of the other ones is it's kind of behind the scenes and it's not necessarily upfront and the sexiest thing in the world. It's the political advocacy. And then the other part of that is the connections you make with the other members. And that's done both through the networking events and through the education classes. So it's not that you have to, you only need 30 hours of education per the state law every 2 years. So, some people would say, well, why offer then so much education every year? And the main point of it is more for networking than for CE credit. So you guys connect with each other. And that became even more apparent during COVID that was needed as people started getting kind of isolated. And, it became just so apparent that we needed those connections. Because like for you, for example, you're with John L. Scott, one of the biggest firms in the Valley, if not the biggest. But I'd still wager a guess that most of your transactions are not done with someone in your office. They're done with somebody from another firm.
Well, yeah, I don't even know the answer to that. Yeah, it probably is, because there's a lot of realtors in Southern Oregon. 1,500
between Jackson and Josephine counties.
Wow.
So, you need to if you can make those connections at an education class, at a networking event, and get to know those people in the other offices, then when it comes time to do a transaction, it makes that transaction go so much smoother because you know the person on the other side of the deal that you're talking to and working with. So that was a big part of the impetus behind it. So brought Susan Ledoux on at that time, and she had quite a bit of experience in that arena. Had come from the St. Mary's school environment, working with them. And she just really, I have to give her kudos. She took it and ran with it and developed an amazing program. And now she retired in 2020.
Not that long ago.
2021. She retired. I've lost track of my years with COVID and everything. She retired in 2021. And so now Lisa Smythe is our education director. And she's learning, so she's getting her feet under her. It's a lot to learn, a lot to absorb, but she's got some amazing plans for 2023. I'm excited for
that's good to know. And the education, I was always so impressed with the variety and the breadth of education that you could get here in Southern Oregon for a relatively small population. Was so it's so important to all of us for the connection, like you said, but also so that we have more depth of knowledge, because you never know in real estate what's going to get thrown at you, no matter how many decades you've done this. And the society changes, family structures change, laws change. I cannot even imagine having 30 hours a month.
Only 30 hours. Yeah, I know.
And then that's if you don't even do the technology, which I don't think people realize we do take technology classes, right? So that we can expedite and handle
those don't
things.
Count for CE credit, but they make you better for what you do for your client. So
yeah, exactly. What about designations? Can we talk a little bit about what designations are for realtors?
Sure. So those of you out there who have maybe worked with a realtor and you see all these random letters after their name,
the alphabet soup.
Quite a few myself, actually, but mine are unique to being on the administrative side of the industry. Those designations the letters themselves may not mean a whole lot to you as the general public, but what you can be assured of is it means that realtor has dedicated themselves to learning everything they can about how to serve you the best they can, whether you know what the letters themselves mean or not. That's really what the designations are. But there's things such as GRI is one of the big ones, and that's a Graduate Realtor Institute. And that means they took I think it's like 60 or 80 hours of additional education to get that designation. And it is intensive quality education. It's not just something you can, while you're listening to it with one ear, you're checking your emails and doing things with the other side of your brain. You have to be paying attention. There's things like ABR, which is an accredited buyer representative. Help me. I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden.
There's a senior for senior citizens.
SRES, senior real estate specialist.
And that's kind of new, isn't it?
That's a fairly new one. Yeah. There's what's the military one?
For the veterans.
Yeah, there's one that's for military where that means you're a specialist in veteran related housing and financing. One of the important ones, since we were talking about fair housing earlier, is AHWD, which stands for At Home with Diversity. And it means,
so that's a designation now.
It's a certification.
A certification.
It's still letters.
Very cool.
Yeah. It's still letters you put after your name. So yeah. So I actually myself this last year committed to getting what's called the CAE designation, which stands for Certified Association Executive. And it's the granddaddy of all designations for someone in my profession. And it's not just unique to the realtor industry. It's for any association of any industry.
Oh, that's super cool. How many hours is that going to take?
A lot. I got it in May.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And it was basically, you had to have 100 hours of education before you could even apply. And then once you apply, you have to take this 3-month-long, basically college course. Before then you take the exam, which is a 4-hour-long exam. So wow. Yeah, wow. It was intensive. It was very intensive, but it's been on my to-do list for several years. And when COVID hit, I thought, now's my chance to get those 100 education hours. Let's just do it.
You are always busy. My goodness. We had kind of a surge in our realtor roles during COVID. Was that my imagination, or did we get a lot of people taking their training during shutdown?
We hit record high membership numbers in 2021. And it dropped a tiny bit in 2022, but not hardly enough to even mention, like a 1% drop, and not an overall drop, just a drop in the number of new members coming in.
Oh, interesting.
We stayed at record high numbers overall, but the number of new members coming in was just astronomical in 21, and it's been really crazy this year too. I think that's going to dramatically slow down going into 23 with the interest rates increasing and the frenzy dying down. So, but yeah, there was definitely a surge. And I think a lot of it had to do with during 2020 when everybody was locked at home. It was that's courses they could take online, and they saw that industry did not get shut down. It was left as an essential industry.
But we didn't know that for sure. Do you remember?
Didn't know for sure. No, we didn't know for sure. That was something that
it was some number of weeks. Yeah.
It was us at the local level, and also then in conjunction with Oregon Realtors at the state level, we lobbied hard to get that declared an essential industry.
So that was the association keeping that all going. And it was more than just jobs, because people's life events were on hold if real estate couldn't keep going.
Exactly.
And there were some states that did stop. Yeah. We never went back and checked with any of those states, looking back. Maybe we'll do that. We'll get a list. And next time we talk, because we want to have you on more often. So record number of realtors now, record number of education hours, and just the 1 minute we have left. What else do we want to remember about 2022?
It feels like it was like almost a year of 2 years, because the first half of the year was crazy. It was more of what we saw in 2021, a lot of multiple offers, a lot of high pricing. And then the interest rates started going up, and it was just a totally different look to the latter half of the year than the beginning half. So it'll be very interesting to see what 2023 looks like.
Yeah. And that slowdown was kind of sudden. And
it was very sudden. It wasn't just a gradual, let's put on the brakes. It was come to a screeching halt.
Yeah. Like you got a rock in your skate.
Right.
So we're visiting with Tina Grimes, the CEO of Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, also known as ARVAR. We'll be back after a quick word from our sponsors. Don't go away. Well, welcome back to the Real Estate Show, folks. I'm Alice Lema, broker, John L. Scott Real Estate here in beautiful Southern Oregon, talking to Tina Grimes, the CEO of Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. Lots and lots to talk about, Tina. Thanks for being back on the show.
Happy to be here. Love it.
So before the break, we were talking about the tale of two parts of the year for 2022, looking backwards.
Yeah. Yeah. And we mentioned that, it wasn't a gradual slowdown. It just felt like things just came to a screeching halt. And the statistics bear that up. I mean, we provide what we call a rolling quarter of statistics. So we're always looking at a 3-month period. And the rolling quarter that ended in November, so it was September, October, and November that we were looking at, sales were down 32% in Jackson County and 29% in Josephine County. So a third year over year. So from September through November of last year versus this year, we dropped a third.
So that's the most recent quarter.
Yeah. Yeah. So like we said, it didn't just, gradually press on the brakes and we just ease into a nice stop. It was kind of a whiplash stop. So
yeah, it does. It does feel like that.
Yeah.
And you, as an association, you provide so many amazing reports and they're available to the general public.
Yes.
But one of them that we don't talk often enough about is the report that has how many lock boxes were open. Do we know what those numbers are looking like lately? Because if the sales are down, then does that mean that we just have fewer people out looking, or people looking and not writing offers?
I honestly, I don't know the answer to that. I can tell you, and I apologize, I don't, here we go, showing activity of key boxes. So if you go to arvar, for those of you listening, if you want to see this for yourself, if you go to arvar.realtor, so RVAR.realtor, and then click on the market statistics tab, the showing activity that I'm looking at right here, it's actually up. Well, it went up. So it dropped a lot last week, of course, because of Thanksgiving.
That's interesting.
But the fourth quarter average compared to, we're actually staying pretty close to average.
Wow. So see, the buyers are still out there, and that's how it feels to the
buyers
agents.
are still out there.
We're still out there doing showings. We're just
and
not
the good news about the sales being down is that inventory's up. Because stuff isn't churning through as fast.
Well, and you get more than 10 minutes to think,
Right. So I think part of it, and you just hit the nail on the head, I think part of it is buyers are able to actually breathe and take a moment to make the decision. They're not having to just go with their gut and go, okay, we got to jump on this now. They can actually take time to really think it through. But also too, with the rise in interest rates, it has decreased the pool that buyers can afford. So, I've heard people say, well, we survived 18% interest rates in the 80s, but in the 80s, the average home price was $80,000.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
18% on 80,000 is actually not as hard of a hit as 7% on 400,000.
Isn't that interesting? It's really the ratio of your payment. Yeah. And wages. Yeah.
So, the interest rate is a concern. Hopefully what we really need to see is more of an inventory in that 200 to 300,000 range. Because that's really where most buyers are at. And that's where we just don't have hardly any.
Well, even if rates were not an issue, would Southern Oregon have much available?
No, but if rates were still what they were, and that's the challenge, is that, somebody that back in April who could afford 400,000 now for each, because basically the way you can kind of look at it with our current home prices, for each percentage the interest rate goes up, their buying power reduces by $50,000.
50.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
somebody who could afford a $400,000 house back in April, now today can only afford a $250,000 house.
So
Well,
then people that are selling need to do the math as well.
yes.
And part of why we have inventory is it's just taking longer.
Yeah, we are seeing sellers starting to come down on their price, but it's not happening as quickly. It's not happening very quickly, I should say. There's not an it's more just, it's not happening very quickly.
Well, they
So,
wait to see,
they're
and then
hoping
that
to
takes
see.
a month or two.
Right. Well, and I think everybody's kind of thinking, well, maybe after the first of the year, stuff will everybody's just kind of, and I said this to somebody the other day, one of your fellow agents, because I was talking to him and I said, I almost feel like everybody's just in this moment where they're just kind of holding their breath. And they all think, okay, let's just wait and see what happens after the holidays are over and after the first of the year. But eventually people are going to have to breathe because you can't hold your breath forever.
Everybody has to move. You can't stay put forever.
So I don't know, moving into next year. I genuinely don't know. I made this comment to my board the other day when we were going over next year's budget proposal. I said, this was the 23rd time I've written a budget proposal for this organization, and it was without a doubt the hardest one I've ever done because I really don't have a clue what to expect from next year.
Wow. So are you, as a board, maybe discussing a couple different scenarios?
Well, we approved one, but yes, there's definitely some options that we're just going to keep a close eye on it as we go into the year and maybe have to make an adjustment halfway through the year. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So, is there some concern of a further downturn or?
Well, it depends on which economist you listen to. Some of them say that we are headed for a full-blown recession. Others are saying, no, we're going to kind of skirt the edge of it, but then bounce off. We won't go into full-blown recession. So it just really depends on which one you listen to. I think going into the first of the year legislative session on both a federal level and a state level is going to be very telling what kind of things come out of that. That's going to make a huge difference on what happens for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Is there anything going to be discussed in the state of Oregon that you guys are already aware of?
Well, I know that there's obviously the wildfire bill that put ratings on people's homes.
Right. We forgot about that.
That's going to be a huge topic going into next legislative session, because I do know there's a couple of legislators that are planning to propose a bill that will amend that. So, plus there's still some tweaking that needs to be done to that climate friendly and equitable communities bill that got passed in last year. Mm-hmm. Because it's got some unintended consequences that nobody was expecting. So there's going to be quite a bit of work done at the state level for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a big year.
Yeah.
We don't have a clear picture yet, but that's why we like talking to Tina Grimes, the CEO of Valley Association of Realtors. And we really thank you so much, Tina, for all the different aspects that your organization performs on behalf of the community and the real estate agents. You're
very welcome. And I love what I do. So that makes it easy.
Well, we thank you again for being on the show. And I know you're got a lot going on today. It's another busy day for you. So
Always.
We'll let you get back to it. And hopefully we'll have you on the show again more often for 2023.
Love to. Pleasure as always.
Thank you so much. We're going to wrap it up for today. The show will broadcast again tomorrow at 6 p.m. Have a beautiful Southern Oregon weekend. Bye now.